Thank you, Chairman Rogers, for holding this hearing, and for Attorney General Garland for attending. In your opening statement, you said that you work to uphold civil rights. Is the Sixth Amendment one of those in the Bill of Rights?
The Sixth Amendment is one.
It is, great.
Certainly a civil right.
And you work to uphold civil rights for all Americans, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. When the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution says the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, what kind of a time frame does a speedy trial mean?
Well, there's two different ones. So there's the Speedy Trial Act.
That's correct.
I used to be able to tell you exactly how long it took, but I believe at least the first part I remember is 30 days from the complaint.
That's correct.
I think it's 120 days after that, and then there are exceptions for different motions for a speedy trial.
Okay, I believe it says 70 days from the filing of charges of the defendant's appearance before the judicial officer.
It's been a long time since I actually appeared in magistrate's court to make that argument.
Okay, great. I'm glad you are well aware of that. Mark Houck was arrested September 23rd, 2022 and found not guilty on January 30th, 2023. The jury deliberated about an hour. DOJ accused Houck of twice assaulting the volunteer in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic and charged him with 2 counts of violating the FACE Act, freedom of access to clinic entrances. The arrest to the trial took just over 4 months. Would you consider that a speedy trial?
Yes.
All right, so would I. Last week, I visited the D.C. Department of Corrections and met with some of the 20 prisoners who were arrested in connection to the events at the Capitol on January the 6th. According to a Just Security article that came out on March the 20th, 11 of the 20 have not accepted a plea deal, nor have they even been brought to trial. Today is March the 29th, 2023. Attorney General Garland, is it correct that since their arrest, some of these individuals have been waiting approximately 2 years for their trial?
Look, I don't know the specifics of individual cases. The beauty of the Sixth Amendment is that each of those people is entitled to a lawyer, has a lawyer who can make a speedy trial argument in the court. Oftentimes, lawyers ask for more time. Oftentimes, they ask for exceptions for discovery. There was an enormous amount of discovery in those cases, but I don't know anything about particular cases.
Does waiting 2 years for a trial meet the speedy trial clause of the Sixth Amendment?
It can if the exceptions to the Speedy Trial Act are met. Those are the responsibility of the lawyers for those defendants to bring to the court.
Well, I would like you to look into that, because to me, I don't think waiting 2 years for your trial complies with the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution.
This is an argument to be made before the judge. The judge has the authority to dismiss a case for a violation of the Speedy Trial Act.
You're absolutely correct. A judge does have that authority. You know, like you said in your opening statement, you work to uphold the civil rights of all Americans. I think in this case, their civil rights are being violated, and I would appreciate you looking into that. In your opinion, should unauthorized agencies or unauthorized programs in the federal government receive funding through the Appropriations Committee, through this committee?
Sorry, I'm not following the question. If it hasn't been authorized?
Correct. In your opinion, should unauthorized agencies or unauthorized programs in the federal government receive funding through this Appropriations Committee?
At a high level of generality, it seems like a syllogism. If it's unauthorized, it shouldn't have appropriations.
I agree. We have authorizing committees and we have appropriating committees here in Congress. Before a government agency or program can come into existence, it must be authorized. Then we as appropriators add the money to make the program function. So I agree with you that if a program is not authorized, it should not be appropriated. Is the Department of Justice currently authorized for appropriations?
Okay, now you got me here. I'm no expert at the difference between authorizations and appropriations in specific programs.
Well, we have authorizing committees, and the authorizing committee for the Department of Justice would be the Judiciary Committee.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I will tell you, right here, Public Law 109-162, the last time the Department of Justice was authorized was 2009. 2009, when your budget was $26.2 billion. So you're asking for an appropriation of $40 billion, and the department does not have an authorization. I think that's a problem.
Well, I think it got me in a certain way, but that means that during the entire previous Trump administration and much of the Bush administration, the Justice Department was also unauthorized.
Well, that would be the Obama administration.
Well, if it's since 2009, it would also include the
Well, through 2009, right here.
from 2009 to today, and all the previous administrations were also authorized.
That's correct, and it's incumbent upon the Department of Justice to ask for an authorization.
I have to, when I don't know the answer, I think the truthful thing for me to say is I don't know the answer, and I don't know the answer.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm finding it difficult to approve an appropriation to an agency that has not requested an authorization. And how can I, in good conscience, appropriate taxpayers' money to an unauthorized agency? So, giving you the benefit of the doubt, and the last time that you were authorized, which was 2009, I would think that $26.2 billion is probably the
Time of the
most we can
gentleman has
offer.
expired.
Thank you. And I yield back.
Mr. Elsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, General. It's good to be here. We've not met before, but as soon as I shook your hand, I understand that you have some pretty thick skin because you get run through the ringer up here, and I appreciate your time and in coming up here. I'll get right to it. Are you familiar with the term? Now, Congressman Garcia, Congressman Gonzalez, and I are all in naval aviation in our previous careers. Have you ever heard the terms alligator's closest canoe?
Yeah, I think I've heard it, the nearest bear to the door, but
That's it?
pretty
All
much
right.
the same, I think.
And have you heard the term stump the chump?
No, afraid not.
Okay. That means when you ask a question that you're not going to get the right answer on or something like this, it's something to put somebody on the spot. I promise you I'm not going to play that game with you
appreciate
today.
it.
But we are going to talk about the alligator closest canoe. I'm from Texas 6, which is just south of Dallas. I have a 9-county district, which has gotten pretty big, largely rural, not a whole lot of money in the district. And as I look at the budget requests for some of these programs, and I understand you have a very large department. You have a lot of folks working for you, and I know you didn't write this budget request yourself. And then you have to be under the microscope to answer for it. So I'm going to ask you a couple hard questions, namely about the SCAP program, which helps offset the cost of local law enforcement for holding within their jails illegal aliens who are criminals, either have been convicted of a felony or 2 misdemeanors. And previous to that, we had $234 million allocated to that program. That program's been cut. And I'm curious to know if there's an alligator closest canoe, which is, again, I said I'm not going to play stump the chump. We have a illegal immigration problem. We have a drug problem coming from the border. We have a human trafficking problem coming from the border. I think we can agree with that. So I asked my local sheriffs how much it costs them to hold some of these folks. So I've got 9 counties, but I talked to Sheriff Elmer Tanner of Navarre County, Brad Norman of Ellis County, my home county, Bill Wayburn of Tarrant County. We're still waiting on some of those numbers. There's 254 counties in Texas, and I would argue that Texas is bearing the brunt of what's going on the border. So I heard back from Elmer in Navarre County. He has held 28 of these criminals for a total of 2,067 days. At $69 a day, that's $142,000 cost to Navarre County and the taxpayers of Tarrant County. There's only 52,000 people there. That's real money for counties like mine, in my district like mine. So my question is, if we're going to do away with $234 million program under the justification of more emergent problems like new grant problems like the Accelerating Justice System Reform, which is $300 million discretionary over 10 years, incentivize jurisdictions in undertaking the critical work of addressing the entrenched issues of inequity and disparity, that's not the alligator closest canoe. Who on earth decided to cut that entire program that's going to offset my sheriffs from having to house illegal immigrant criminals for that program? And that's just one of many, but I don't have that much time to go over all of it. So I'd like to see why you can justify cutting that money, justify the request for the other money, and would you be willing to reinstate the SCAP program?
So I think you correctly analyzed my problem here, which is my microscope was not focused on SCAP. And I don't know the answer to your question. But I'd be happy to look at it again, or for myself for the first time, and have our staff talk to yours about the SCAP program and whether there was an alternative source of funding or some other arrangement was made. I just honestly don't know, and my experience before this and other committees is it's best if I say I don't know when I don't know.
So that is an acceptable answer. We learned that at the Naval Academy too. That is a perfectly acceptable one. I'd love for you to look into it because it's important to a district like mine that's not made of money, and we're doing the federal government's job. We do have a problem on the border, and my sheriffs in my district are saying, where's the money coming from? And we just cut all of it. And they were already only getting 31 cents on the dollar to house these illegal immigrant criminals. And that affects my district very, very harshly. So my time's expired. I yield back. Thank you very much for the answer.
Gentleman yields.